there, welcome to our show. Today I'm talking about the best monster movies. These are the mainstream list. I'm doing two lists. I'm doing a mainstream list, I'm doing a cult list. Because I think monster movies can go into different areas. And there's some monster movies you've heard of easily, there's other ones you probably haven't. So I'm doing a separate list for them. Because otherwise it would just be all cult films and there would be no mainstream films. So I thought I'd do my favourite monster movies that are more mainstream than the culty ones and make it easier to understand. So obviously from the picture that's over there, or over there we go. It's really weird the angles, what I'm seeing. The first one is Hellboy. Hellboy is Guillermo del Toro's wonderfully weird and eccentric film. Basically it's a monster as a superhero, which is Hellboy is, Ron Perlman as Hellboy is a demon that comes from hell. He's meant to bring about the end of the world, the apocalypse. Instead, he has become a monster fighter for the American government. He's not meant to exist because he's big and red. He's called Red, and he's like he treats everything like a working class stiff. Basically, he's he's got all these different fancy things, all these spells will turn into guns. Basically, he understands guns and basic charms, and he's a very no nonsense approach to life and no nonsense approach to the monsters he fights. And it's just wonderful. Both films are wonderful. I'm choosing the first Hellboy because the second one gets a lot of praise. And I think I actually rate them both the same ultimately, which is very highly, but they both have flaws. The first one has the flaw of having to introduce things so much that sometimes it takes a little while to get going. And the second one is the flaw basically of some of the interactions are a bit TV, a bit episodic. Well, some of the best stuff is just pure Fantasyland stuff, so sometimes there's an imbalance between the two. But the imperfections of these films really make them work well, because they are trying to combine all these different things. You've got, in the first film, one of the reasons why I love the first film so much, is you've got Hellboy, but you've also got Lovecraftian monsters that are waiting to come through from the other side to destroy the world. And this is one of the first time you actually get some Lovecraftian monsters on screen that really make it work. And there's a real threat to them, and really cool image of the moon turns into this portal to bring these monsters through, and Hellboy is the key to do it. And you've got Rasputin as the main villain who's trying to bring it through. You've got these Nazis helping him, including this guy who's he's addicted to surgery, so all the blood's gone from his body, so he's now a wind-up doll of a person having to try and kill Hellboy and all the rest of it. And it's wonderful. But John Hurt is Hellboy's adopted dad, basically, the guy who found Hellboy as a child and who's brought him up and who's frustrated by him because Hellboy will not learn. You have a really wonderful love story with Selma Blair as the object of Hellboy's love. It's got everything in it, and it's also self-aware enough to not play everything too seriously. Like, Hellboy himself has lots of funny jokes about his situation, and he's a well-meaning oaf, basically, which creates a lot of humour with the characters. Like his reaction to all these things, which would be which are really strange, is just basically, it's life. It's like, who cares? He's got all these insecurities. He's like basically a huge guy who can do almost anything, but he's very insecure about lots of things, and they have to actually treat him like a teenager. It's just a wonderful film, and I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. It's very eccentric, but as a film that a lot of people have seen. It's not like a culty film, so that's why it's on the mainstream list. Okay, next is Godzilla vs. Smog Monster. There's plenty of Godzilla films I could have chosen. Godzilla's a famous monster that everyone's seen, everyone's heard of. But which one to choose? I mean, the obvious one would be either Godzilla, the original, or Destroy All Monsters, or one of the Millennium ones, or something that are more of modern with lots of monster fights. But I'm choosing my favourite, which is Godzilla vs. Smog Monster, which is not the best one, it's just my favourite one. Because it's got this giant monster that is made up of all of our environmental waste that comes out to fight Godzilla. And it's a very strange film. It's a film that was so weird and so psychedelic and odd and very 70s Japan. The pictures, I hated it now. Pretty much every film following it was like, do not do that. That's not what you do. I mean, the person who made it never did another Godzilla film after this one. It was a case of they were bringing someone in to try and make the series better and more interesting, and they went too far and created this weird thing that lots of people did not like. But I love it, so I'd say it's in the Criterion box set. If you've got it, watch Godzilla vs. Small Monster. It's really good, and it's really weird, and it's a perfect Godzilla movie because it is so strange. Now we're going for Bride of Frankenstein, which is another perfect film. I saw this obviously when I was younger. It's never really left me as one of the perfect ways to do a monster movie. This is just a great film, and it's so eccentric. I mean, I'm trying to choose like only one per director, one per period of films or anything, so there's some variety. In this, if you're looking at the Universal monster movies, Bride of Frankenstein's it. It's a cliched answer actually, because when they say like what's the best one, it's usually this one because it is the best one. Because it's funny, it's dark, it's romantic. You've got the monsters learning to speak. You've got Dr. Pretorius with his little creatures. It's just insane. I mean, the first film was darker and has more atmosphere, but this one has lots of weird metaphors, Christ metaphors of the monsters getting chased and chased by the villagers who are terrified of it. You have the monster as this moving creature who is trying to work its place in the world and getting nowhere. You've got the creature, the bride, who did not even want to be born. You've got this early introduction where Mary Shelley's talking about how this creature and her creations and how here's the next part of the story. Everything's way over the top. Everything's just wonderful. It's one of those films that's just perfect. Everything's perfect. Colin Clive is way over the top as Frankenstein, and he's just perfect. Carl perfect. Everything's perfect. The atmosphere's perfect. Everything works. So go see this film. It's so good. Now we have to go do Cronenberg. Obviously, I'm going to put Cronenberg in here. I love Cronenberg. There's no way I was going to do Cronenberg somewhere. And obviously, The Fly. You know, it's just this is perfect. I mean, it's like I should say, even though these are mainstream films, I try to avoid having the obvious ones. Like, I'm not going to do The Thing. I'm not going to do Alien. I'm not going to do something I've done a ton of times with Batman Returns. These are monster movies. I'm not doing them because they're so obvious, for me at least, to do. So I'm not doing them. This is probably the most obvious one in the list of films. It could be in that category. I'm just doing it because it's not as brought up as much as some of the other ones now, which is a shame because it is perfect. It's a perfect film. This is a tragedy. This is a classic tragedy of a scientist who goes too far and gets afflicted, and his life gets ruined because of his ambitions. But the way it's done is so moving because it's not an arrogant guy. He's a guy who loves science, who's really into his work. He really wants to improve the world for people. He does not want to. He's not in it for the money. I mean, he works for a company who pays him to do this stuff. He's not in it to make tons of money. He's kind of a recluse. And what happens to him is tragic, and what happens becomes a metaphor for aging and a relationship dying, because there's a love story as well between Jeff Goldblum and Jenny Davis, a couple who fall in love, and then when the tragedy happens, he starts to change physically, mentally. It's like a relationship change, but it's also the idea of someone you love dying and changing and how that affects you. So it's a three-hander. I mean, basically those two and her ex-lover, who's also the person who is a boss, and he starts off as someone who's jealous, but ends up becoming someone who's a lot kinder than you think he would ever be. And everyone changes around a little bit, like each character has moments of selfishness and moments of selflessness, and it becomes a drama about people rather than a drama about gore. There's tons of gore in it as well. Goldblum and Davis are amazing, and this is some of the best work ever. And it's just a great film. It's so tragic and so moving, and it's one of those ones that it just still works. It just delivers. It's one of the most beautiful monster movies. So that's The Fly. Now we go a little different. We go with Tremors. early 90s monster movie. I'm trying to vary them up, like not just have all the same type of movies together. And just for seeing a piece of video, Tremors was a film I saw on video first, and because it was released in summer in the UK of 1990, was pretty much gone from the cinemas. Well, we never got it where I lived, so I saw it on video and thought, this is amazing. And then it came out in the cinema in my local area, so I went to see it again like the week after. So I saw it twice, first time in video, then in the cinema, which is very weird. It's a perfect example of a monster movie that is about monster which is just a killer machine. It's just like, it's there to kill people. It doesn't care. It's an animal. It does not care about you. You're just food to it. It's not evil. It's not good. It's just an animal. And these are the people in this little town called Perfection. It's this town with like 5 houses or something. Most of them are just trailers. And the people in it are poor. And they're just trying to make a living in an inhospitable place. And they are having to deal with these sandworms. There's no way out of the area because they're in the desert and there's mountains nearby, and they're cut off from that, and they have to find a way to get to land that's not sandy, because the tremors go through sand, but if they get to hard rock, they can survive. Because the tremors couldn't go through the hard rock, basically. So, it's a great cast with Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Michael Gross. There's been plenty of sequels. All the characters work. You like the characters, even the kind of more potentially villainous characters are just stupid rather than anything too malicious. You like everybody, you want everyone to survive, and it knows enough to keep enough people alive so you have a good sense of goodwill, but also knows enough to kill certain people so you get a sense of threat. And it kills enough people you like so you know anyone can get it. It's just a perfect way to do a monster movie. This is just wonderful. There's going to be a 4K release of it by Arrow later this year, and I'm obviously pre-ordered already. Of course I was doing Kong. Really, I mean, can you imagine me not doing Kong in the best monster movies? There's no way I could not do Kong. Kong's like he's kind of the brain of Frankenstein, even though I'm saying I'm trying to avoid obvious ones on the list. The ones that are so obvious, you kind of have to do them. And Kong is perfect. Kong is another one that's such a perfect film. It's just get this wonderful... Some of it is luck. I mean, they got everyone, the right people at the right time. I mean, you can see in the film there's a couple of characters that aren't as good, but they work anyway because the film is so well paced. I mean, this is like a very short film. It always gets to the point, A to B, C to D, really quickly. And Kong's so soulful and so in his own world, fighting dinosaurs, and he's a pure creature. He'll kill people because of just other things that are in his way. He's such a sympathetic character by not trying to go for your sympathy. And the humans are pretty flat compared to him. And that makes Kong's tragedy even worse, because he's around people who don't understand him and don't appreciate how wonderful he is. And the whole film is just so moving and wonderful because it keeps at a great pace. It's an adventure story for the first half of the movie as they go and try and find this world they've heard about. And they find Kong and dinosaurs and they have to try and survive that. So it's a survival thing, and then suddenly it becomes taking Kong into the real world and watching the tragedy unfold. It's like 3 sections of a movie, all about half an hour long. So there's no fat. Everything's just perfect. It's just a beautiful film. It's just wonderful in every possible way. So I want to say it's perfect. That's it. So we're going from one perfect film to another. This is another one I just going to say it's perfect. And again, the acting is ropey at times with some of the leads because they're not really... it's not about that. It's about the monsters. It's about the story. But it's a perfect movie anyway. I mean... It's a film that even the fact that the guy playing Jason isn't that good doesn't matter. You know, the villain is actually much more sympathetic. All the baddies are more sympathetic than Jason is, because they're played by actors who are really going for it. And Jason is kind of the stoic one. But it works though. Jason being stoic works. You're on his side. Especially as a child, you're really on his side. As an adult, you're still on his side, even though you could be a better actor. But it still works, so he's still kind of perfect for that film. It wouldn't work without someone else. So I can criticise, but it still works. And the monsters are great. The monsters are wonderful. It's Jason going after the Golden Fleece. He's dealing with the fact that his parents were killed when he was a child. He's like prophesied to do all these great things, and the gods are helping him on his quest, where he joins Hercules and a bunch of other people to go to different places to find the Golden Fleece, including an island that has the big metal monster they have to fight. You've got the moments when they're going in a ship, they're going through this terrifying plane where you've got the god Poseidon holding up things open and things. It's just great. And then finally get to Golden Fleece, you've got the skeleton fight. Everything's perfect in this film. It's just wonderful. Just go see it again. You know, even its flaws make it better. So, yeah, Jason's Argonauts. And now we're going to Pitch Black, which is a less famous film. But there's been 3 Pitch Black films. There's been Pitch Black, Chronicles of Riddick, and then Riddick. I mean, the series is known because it's Vin Diesel's series beyond Fast and Furious. I much prefer this series to the Fast and Furious series. And I really enjoy Pitch Black. Pitch Black's a really good monster movie. The monsters are good. Basically, they're on a planet. It's a ship that crashes on a planet because of a problem with it. They find out this planet is in either goes from sunlight to darkness. When it goes dark, these creatures come out that will eat anything. They can't see in the light, they can see perfectly in the dark. And the survivors now suddenly have to get from one ship to another through rocky terrain to actually get the ship and escape. And it's just great. It's just wonderful. I know it's like the first half's actually a character piece where you have 3 characters who don't trust each other. You try to work out who's the villain, because Vin Diesel's Riddick seems to be the villain, but then the people chasing him have very dodgy motivations as well, so it becomes a much more complicated story. And then it becomes a monster movie. So you get basically 2 movies in one. And this one is kind of does what From Dusk Till Dawn try to do. Dusk Till Dawn's a good fun film, but this one's better at the thing of switching between a psychological movie to a horror movie, a monster movie. It does it much better than Dusk Till Dawn did, because the twist is much better in this one. And it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful little film. It's getting released. It's been released actually by Arrow in 4K and a new Blu-ray. So I highly recommend you buying it, because it is very good and very enjoyable. And it's a nice little pulp film that doesn't. It knows exactly what it is. There's no pretensions otherwise. It knows it's a monster movie and a pulp movie. Okay, now we have Cabin in the Woods. Now I'm showing you a really violent sight from Cabin in the Woods here. Cabin in the Woods is actually a pretty charming film. Joss Whedon wrote it with Drew Goddard, and it's wonderful. It's really nicely put together film. It knows exactly what it's doing. It knows all the cliches it's setting up, but the idea was these 4 kids go to this cabin in the woods for a weekend. So it's not like any other slasher movie. It turns out there's all these scenarios that are happening that has actually been designed by people who are releasing monsters to kill these children, or not the children, these teenagers, but they're based out of children. And we start to comment on the cliches and start to see what's going on is a bit weird, and it's like we use this cliche this time, and they just tweak all the different cliches, what you expect from people, what you expect from characters, people who you expect to live die, and people who you expect to die horribly survive. And then there's a more nefarious theme going through it, like these are sacrifices that need to be made to save the Earth because of this Lovecraftian monster threatening the planet. So it starts off as a very simple cabin in the woods thing, and it ends up being much wider Lovecraftian horror. You get all these weird scenarios where these monsters escape. So it's not just a monster movie of slasher monsters. You get creepy ghost girls from Japan. You get zombies. You get every kind of monster you can think of in this film. This low budget film. It's really fun, really enjoyable. If you're looking for a fun Halloween film, even though it's no longer Halloween, this is perfect. Just watch this. You don't have to be Halloween to watch this one. This is a really enjoyable film. My final choice is an obvious one, but it's not obvious to be used in the monster movie category, which is The Terminator. Because it's a monster movie. But it's always viewed as a sci-fi movie, so it doesn't count as a monster movie. But it is a monster movie. He's a monster that comes out of nowhere, starts hunting people down to kill a certain person for a certain reason, and it's them escaping from it. And that's it. There's time travel things going on. There's the fate of the world going on. But it's still a monster movie, which is one of the things that the first two films in terms of series got right. It's a monster movie. You're chased by a monster. You have to escape the monster. That's it. And the second one went a bit further and tried to change the fate of things, but even then it always reverted back to being a monster movie with sympathetic characters and people you really want to survive. It follows a monster movie to perfection. It has a great monster. Schwarzenegger as this incredible machine. Just it destroys everybody. Destroys a police station in one amazing sequence that it's pure monster come and destroy everything. It's like a sequence that it's kind of always been promised by Michael Myers and Jason, but it gets delivered on with Schwarzenegger and Terminator. This thing of machine coming, this thing coming and destroying everything. Usually in movies it's suggested it happened in the past or it's happened out of view. In this one they show it and it keeps on coming. So this is a monster movie. And so that's why I'm including that, even though it's maybe more obvious than some of the other ones. It's still a monster movie. It's still a mainstream monster movie that a lot of people have heard of. It's just not viewed as a monster movie. But it is. So I hope you enjoyed this list. There's going to be another list coming soon. So I'll be back soon with that one. Bye for now.